I hope you enjoy this preview of Puerto Rico Forward. You can listen to the full episode on Patreon, where you can also help support this project. You can also find us on iTunes and Google Play. As always, thank you for your time, thank you for listening, y que viva Puerto Rico. In 1948, the next year after Muñoz's electoral victory, the Puerto Rican legislature passed the Industrial Incentives Act, or Ley de Incentivos Industriales de Puerto Rico. This bill allowed qualifying enterprises to be exempted from property tax, excise tax, municipal tax, license fees, insular income tax for a period of 10 years, followed by partial exemption for an additional 3 years. In addition, the Puerto Rico government also provided subsidized workspaces and low-interest loans, among other goodies. These measures were put in place to complement Section 931 of the Internal Revenue Code that allowed U.S. corporations to exclude the income generated by Puerto Rico subsidiaries that qualified as possessions corporations from their corporate tax bill. With these drastic changes in policy, the U.S. and Puerto Rico government worked hand in hand to create the most favorable conditions possible for private investment, throwing to the wayside social interests. But beyond government-backed policies, U.S.-based industries were initially attracted to Puerto Rico by the low wages they could pay while maintaining productivity. In fact, low wages provided a larger subsidy than that provided by government-backed incentives. As an example, in 1950, manufacturing in Puerto Rico only required an hourly wage equivalent to 28% of that in the U.S. This stood in stark contrast to the reality that prices for goods in Puerto Rico were higher than that in the U.S. Perhaps more importantly, U.S. firms had no incentive to raise wages since their output was destined to mainland consumption. However, in the 1960s, policymakers in Puerto Rico began to work towards attracting capital-intensive enterprises in place of labor-intensive ones. The ultimate desire was to raise wages. These enterprises could afford to pay higher wages while maintaining higher productivity through their greater use of capital. Capital-intensive firms were also expected to have a positive effect on indirect employment by satisfying their needs for inputs, such as raw materials and semi-finished goods, through the purchases from local firms that would emerge in reaction to the needs of the first. On the other side of the spectrum, capital-intensive firms were expected to provoke the incorporation of local businesses that would purchase the outputs of the first. What occurred was that capital-intensive firms that established themselves in the archipelago arrived with already established production and distribution networks, mostly established in the U.S. As a result, these enterprises did not have any interest in forming nor being part of new supply chains.